Welcome. We have with us Security Affairs Analyst from alMayadeen Television, Ali Jezzini. This is our first episode in this cafe format where we're going to have to discuss the latest in the region, politically and militarily as things are developing. Thank you for coming to have coffee with us, Ali.
Thank you, Laith.
The latest, of course, is just in the last few hours, the Israeli government officials have announced that they will be responding to Iran's retaliation and Operation Truthful Promise that happened a few days ago. There's talk about how Iran will be responding if Israel actually attacks it. That's a huge thing that we're going to be talking about today, but I think it will help our audience if we actually analyze the response of Iran that happened 2 days ago, militarily, politically, so we can try to predict what will happen next after. So my first question, given that you are an expert in military equipment and the security analysis, as your title says, let's discuss the weapons that Iran used in this attack. What are the good things about them? What's important? What can we tell our audience?
So basically, the thing is with the actual data that's available about the strike, it has been skewed a lot because it's like there is a goal behind each party. So the US actually tried to undermine the strike because it seeks, as it announces, as the White House had announced, that it wants to de-escalate in the region. So it is in its interest to say that most of the strike has been intercepted, no damage has been caused, as Biden also has told Netanyahu. It has been revealed by leaks that he said, like, okay, take this as a victory, consider it as a victory, I don't know, sell it to the Israeli people and take it. So data that we'll be using is the one available first from videos, from actual interceptions, if there were any, and actual targeting or photos or like the firing of Iranian missiles from the launch site themselves. So to say, the strike has been a mixed strike between multiple systems that work on multiple levels of like height, range, explosive power, and many more components of the missiles. So to say, it has been a drone strike. Cruise missiles have been reportedly used as they were seen over Iraq. And most importantly, the one that actually caused the damage were the ballistic missiles that Iran was famous of manufacturing and developing in the last few years. So to say, what appears to be is that the ones that were more efficient were ballistic missiles, while drones, most of the drones, to be honest, have been intercepted, but they fulfilled and served a certain role. Also, the cruise missiles, the same thing, but we will be explaining why that happened and what role they have fulfilled.
Yeah, so there was a swarm of drones, slow moving drones that were fired. Some numbers claim around 300 something drones. And that was followed by a volley of cruise missiles and then eventually those ballistic missiles. Why did this strategy was used by Iran? The distance, the systems that they're going to be defending against them. Tell our audience, why was this a good plan and how did it play out?
It looks at this time that the Israelis have fallen to the strategic trap of the Iranians. All the leaks and all the actual announcements by Israeli officials have said that we didn't expect that much of a response from Iran for bombing the consul. They have been expecting maybe an attack by Iran's allies or by the axis of resistance in general. The thing is with this strike, the Israelis have, and the Westerners in general, this is not a pure Israeli interception. There is a system of defense between Arab allies of the Israelis and the Americans themselves. The French have said, Macron today has said that he participated in the interceptions of drone over Jordan. the Israeli Air Force have been allowed to go unhindered into Jordan to intercept. And as well, the Americans have said they intercepted multiple drones. So the thing is,
You're talking about the Israeli jets that were allowed to fly over Jordan to shoot down some of the drones,
yes,
as we
exactly.
were
So
told.
cruise missiles, while effective, they have subsonic speeds, so like around 800 kilometers per hour. Drones, on the other hand, have like a speed about 200 kilometers per hour. Maybe jet drones have a speed about 500, 600 kilometers. Each one of the systems that have been used have an advantage and a disadvantage. So the advantage of these systems, say like the cruise missiles and the drone, they fly very low. They have unpredictable passes, so they can like go right and left in the desert without being being noticed by the air defenses. But the thing is, the amount of planes that have been flying over the desert, the Jordanian desert, like is by the hundreds. The whole Israeli Air Force was there. First, to protect it from the Iranian ballistic missile strike, which actually did include cluster munition designed exactly to hit airfields and cause maximum damage to equipment. And second and foremost, to actually participate in the interception. It took a huge coordination effort.
So you were saying basically the part of it was to get all these planes to take off from the airfields so they don't get damaged on the tarmac. And in fact, the Israelis admitted to one military cargo plane being destroyed in the attack on. But of course, most probably there's more than that destroyed. And ultimately, the attack on these two bases, the ballistic missiles that reached, do you think the swarm of drones, flying over all these air defenses, overwhelmed them and made the job of the cruise missiles and the ballistic missiles?
The thing is, with the strike, it won't happen like this anytime soon. It took a huge effort from the Israelis and the Americans to concentrate such a force that's actually so costly to concentrate and to focus in this exact area. So say if Iran decided to strike instantly, you can't just take off all the planes from the ground and like re-coordinate everything. They had a lot of time to prepare for that. Iran also probably needed some time to prepare its infrastructure for a possible counter-strike. So you need to move stuff like the hideouts and so on and so forth. That's is why probably it took like 12 days to actually accomplish the strikes. So let's say both parties benefited from that. But if there was an escalation, they wouldn't be that efficient. And most importantly, if there was a prolonged war, we'll be discussing more in detail, the Israelis will probably be working over Gaza, over Lebanon, over Syria, over maybe Iraq, and maybe some trying to strike Iran. So the thing is, they won't have the same air capability that's actually just searching the desert for a stray drone here and there. So what will happen is that the drones will definitely have much higher chance of reaching their targets and the cruise missiles themselves. So this is like a very closed space, a laboratory space, which will be hard to imitate in any possible confrontation. The thing is, like, imagine, for instance, the ballistic missiles being fired. The planes are in the air searching for drones, and then another ballistic missile fires at the tarmac and the equipment. The plane will have to land to refuel and to rearm their weapons. So they might be struck. The weapons might be struck. So this will open more possibilities to actually fire more systems that are even cheaper than ballistic missiles. So it will give even cheaper drones the capability to cause more damage. So it's just like a cumulative effect. And what we say is, it's not like we can't just pose, let's say, a constant in this interception rate. Like say, let's put a number, say 70% of the targets were intercepted. But if you have fired, for example, 100 projectile at a certain area, if you fire 200, it won't still be 70%. It will be halved,
Yes.
for instance.
Yes, and so, of course, Iran has one of the biggest drone swarm collection in the world. It seems like the Russians are buying from them because they can't even produce as much as Iran. So, how much the numbers that people predict for in terms of drones that Iran has in such a case of a bigger war?
You see, estimates are very hard because this is one of the most guarded national secrets. But based on the numbers, if they had given the Russians like thousands of drones, they probably have thousands of drones, of course. The most importantly, they have been mastering in the last years the art of producing the components needed, the main components that are needed for drones, ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles domestically, the engine parts. They have been copying a lot of foreign models, and they have been improvising some even newer models, which is an essential part in any innovation process. So how do we say it? Like, this is a well-designed strike that serves a purpose to destroy Israel's strategic deterrence and the whole doctrine revolving around that. It was not meant to start a war because the Iranian strategic thinking is built around eroding the Israelis without causing a war necessarily with the US, and it was built around that. So damage has been caused to the airfields, to the infrastructures. The more advanced missiles that have been used in the strike have reached their targets. The ones that have possessed more maneuvering capabilities, like the Disful, the Khaybar Shikan, and maybe the Amads. While the ones that have been reportedly intercepted, and also we can see it from the video footage, and I actually saw it from the roof of my house in southern Lebanon. It can be seen. It actually was very high in the air. Maybe they were more probably to be the older types, maybe the Qadr, Shihab 3 missiles, and the ones built on that chassis. So, like, to explain to the audience, Iranians have mastered the art of producing cheap liquid fuels missiles based on the Scud engine, which is very cheap to manufacture. They have obtained some from North Korea, from Libya in the 80s, and they have built upon that. That process, for instance, if you had focused only on developing maneuvering warheads that are very fast, that are naturally more expensive, to put it in perspective, it's maybe like $200,000 to $300,000 a warhead, while the cheaper ones could cost like $50,000. To say, both systems have comparable accuracy, so the cheaper systems would have like a 50 meters, maybe 10 meters for more advanced systems of circular error probability. So 50% of the projectiles will fall in a circle of that radius, while the newer ones that are maneuvering, more expensive, have like a 5-meter radius. With a half-ton or 1-ton warhead, it wouldn't matter actually. So to sum it up, you would need, with that much interceptors, with hundreds of interceptors, Western interceptors, with missiles that can cause damage despite being cheap, you need to intercept them. So you're actually draining the whole West.
So we saw that happening during that night of Operation Truthful Promise, that all the air defenses that the US, the UK, France, the Jordanians, and the Israelis, plus all their air forces that were in the region, had to engage these, drones and missiles. Estimates that we heard is for Israel alone, for its ground air defenses, is $1.3 billion. If we add up all the others and the air forces, it's probably, we're talking about a bill of over $3 billion. And the estimates for Iran's costs are ranging around 30 million.
Yeah, exactly. It's more around, like, say, and the maximum extent that we can put, it's more to 50, 60, but it's still only a portion of that.
So let's that's something that's less than 100 times more costly for the West to defend against these weapons, which reminds us of World War II and the Soviets versus the Germans with their tanks that cost them so much, and every little screw had to be perfect, and one hit on the tank is out of service. And the Russians were producing the T-55s as fast as possible. Didn't matter that it's not the perfect tank, and of course they won because of that quantity. So Iran is following that same strategy, and it seems that the West didn't learn from the Germans, from the Nazis. The Zionists didn't learn from the Nazis anything, it seems like, militarily.
Exactly. So the thing is, like, to put it in perspective, the Israelis have used the maximum of their air defense, but the Iranians, on the other hand, have used like only a small portion of their attacking capabilities. So say, on the time frame, if they had followed up with a second strike, the launches have to reload. It takes hours. So if they had followed with second strike, the efficiency would have been much, much, much higher. They would have been able to hit anything they wanted, even with cheaper missiles. The thing is, with cheaper and the more expensive missiles are good at like avoiding interceptors. But if there was no interceptors at all, both will be the same efficiency. Like $50,000 to $80,000 would be able to hit infrastructure, airports, command centers. You'd be able to hinder the Israelis. So the thing that actually scares them, as one Israeli journalist put it, like Ronen Bergman, he's well connected with the Mossad. He said yesterday that in an article on Ynet, that if the Israeli public would have known, or the actual discussion in the Israeli cabinet would be broadcasted on YouTube, 4 million Israelis would just wander off. They would just escape the.
They would
the
go
occupied
to where they
Palestine.
came from, basically.
Exactly. I think it's related to that. We wouldn't know what they were discussing, but they actually saw that picture of the strike and the counterstrike. Where would it lead?
But given that Netanyahu is surrounded by Armageddonists like Ben Gvir and Smotrich, and as we were told, he hid in the bunker in Jerusalem that night, in the bunker of the funder of the end of days cult that wants to destroy the Aqsa Mosque. It's an Israeli billionaire that's funding the bringing the 4 or 5 red heifers. So Netanyahu is part of this cult, and that definitely makes the decisions that Israel is making right now easier to predict, seeing that they are pushing for an Armageddon. Maybe some people would have thought that there's some rational decision makers in that country, but that's not on the table.
It doesn't seem to be like that, because right now WSJ, Wall Street Journal, have also leaked that Western diplomats have been begging Netanyahu not to respond, while on the other hand, the extremists in the government have been urging him to respond, threatening all sorts of threats like that we would pull out of the government, this is destroying us. So he's been like on a rock and a hard place in these days. He also wants to respond, but the limitations like the strike and the counter-strike, for the first time, it's not about, okay, we can strike, we might like get this, maybe some kind of denouncing from somewhere, from the UN, like they don't really care. No, they can get really like a material, technical, military strike that could actually destroy the deterrence once and for all. They would get in a spiral. So say they would get in a spiral a few days of strike and counter-strike with Iran. They would run out of interceptors. Real targets would be starting to get hit. If they hit, like, say, infrastructure in Iran, the Iranians won't be even bothered, like, or even think twice before hitting the infrastructure. They would need they have their strategic depths. Actually, forget about Al Naqab Desert. Like, it's just a postcard. It's nothing. They have a few, maybe 5. I think, I don't remember the number, but 5 thermal power plants. If they had hit like a power plant in like the Americans did in Iraq in 2003, they had tried to hit something like this in Iran, they would be out of electricity. That's the thing. They have a very, very soft belly. They might have the most advanced, one of the most advanced air force in the world, if not the most advanced, but they have a very, very soft belly. It's a glass cannon for them, that case.
Well, before we get to the Israel's response of these possibilities, Jordan, I mean, it's a country that its sovereignty has been violated over and over for the last 2 years with Israeli attacks on Syria and Iraq, with the Israeli planes and missiles flying over Jordan to attack Syria and Iraq. It never dared to stop one of these Israeli jets and missiles. We saw it, be proud about intercepting Iranian drones. We even saw some silly article today about the princess of Jordan supposedly getting in a fighter jet and shooting down some drones. Of course, it's propaganda, but this is how crazy it is. Will Jordan allow Israel to fly over its airspace now to respond to Iran? How will the people on the streets of Jordan act? I've got calls today from some friends of mine in Jordan. They're all really angry. They're saying everybody's cursing the government and cursing the parliament and cursing the king, and these are things that haven't, they're not used to these things happening in Jordan. What do you think will happen to Jordan in that future?
The thing is, Jordan, like when we even want to discuss about it, like a lot of people, a lot of Arabs say like, no, they're traitors. The Jordanian monarchy is no, they're not traitors. They're just like with the Israelis. They're two different things, Okay, they are traitors to the Arabs, but they are an essential stone, a cornerstone in the American and the Israeli defense strategy. They have been that since the creation of Jordan and the occupation of Palestine. So we should base our assumption on that. The thing is, the people do act differently. They need time. They have been bombed with all sorts of propaganda, of sectarian propaganda by Saudi Arabia, there is a habit in Jordan of comparing what happened to Syria and Iraq, or we still have some peace inside. So everyone that actually goes and even protests in support of Palestine, they bomb them with like, you're gonna ruin the country and all that sort. But the Jordanian king is in a hot plate right now because most of the country's population is actually formed of Palestinian refugees, as we all know, and they're not going to be silent about that. The thing is, he's selling face. Herzi Halevi, the chief of staff of the Israeli forces, actually said that you do not understand how important was the participation of Arab allies, of the most important thing that happened on that day was the formation of a new alliance against Iran. That's how they see it. Mm-hmm. They don't see how unstable Jordan can be, actually, if they continue to be that public about it while also having a genocide in Gaza. Yeah. People like Israelis killing the kings of the Palestinians in Jordan. So the thing is, it's not that they don't realize that, it's just they have a bad option and a worse option.
Yeah, I mean, at least his father, King Hussein, during the 1991 war on Iraq, decided not to be part of that. That tells you, of course, the margin of independence as a vassal state, that it shrank a lot after the destruction of Iraq and Syria and everything, that Jordan became fully dependent on the Gulf because there was no more trade with Iraq, there was no more trade with Syria, and fully dependent on the handouts from the Americans and the West. I was born in Amman, Jordan, by the way, and I lived there, and I know this feeling that the Jordanians had of safety for their country, seeing all the region go up in flames. But in the case of the response of Israel that we're going to talk about now, Jordan is going to be trampled on. It's going to be between the two warring parties. Its future is a big question right now, as much as the question of the future of Israel existing.
Exactly. The thing is, Israel's existence is tied somehow to the existence of the Jordanian monarchy that has been created as a buffer state for the Israelis, because the longest let's say border or separation line that occupied Palestine has with an Arab country is in Jordan. So that's the importance there. So say Ra'i Qais, one of the Israeli journalists in Cannes, he said let's imagine if there was a hostile regime in Jordan, what would we have done? Instead of having this buffer time, hours to intercept drones and cruise missiles, they would be just landing out there. We have minutes. We can't just coordinate all of that. So I can't emphasize on how it is an essential part there. But there is I think we can anticipate a brighter future based on that, because if you check on social media now, people are angry. People are starting to see, even if they're not talking like that openly, but people now, instead of buying to the propaganda and the conspiracy theory, and a lot of Westerners don't know that there is this conspiracy theory that the Arab world, that Iran and Israel are allied under the table, which doesn't make any sense. But that's the only way Saudi Arabia can justify it being a traitor to the Arab people. So they're in a very hard situation. I wouldn't think, because the Iranians also said they would be retaliating against the countries that would let the Israeli Air Force pass their space to hit Iran. So this is, I don't see it I see a very dark future for the Jordanian monarchy there.
So let's talk about Israel's response. It's coming. They say it's coming. What are the options that the Israelis have? They don't have that drone swarms that Iran has. I don't know how much long-range missiles they have. What is the capabilities of their jets to reach Iran and come back safely? What do you think about these things?
That's the main problem there. Like they have climbed so high on the tree. So they have this kind of illusion that have sold to their people that we can strike anyone, anywhere, like whenever we want. So, but it is just a lightweight competition. So if you bomb us, we can bomb you, like the whole Mossad narrative. But when it comes to heavyweight, they are toothless. So the thing is with like the Yemen, they were unable maybe to like make sorties, continuous sorties to Yemen. And the United States asked them like, we'll handle it so we don't cause more strife in the Arab street, so it doesn't look like they're actually participating in the war against the Israelis in Gaza. I mean the Yemenis. So the thing is with the Israeli Air Force, they have limited capabilities of long range. They do have like tanker aircrafts to refuel their jets, but the thing is tanker aircrafts can be spotted a long way before reaching Iran. They're not like, even if they fly with like F-35, if they sent it to Iran, it will be hardly be able to be coming back because it will be holding munitions and they need to refuel because the range also will decrease. They have very limited numbers of ballistic missiles, the Ariha, the Jericho missiles, which mostly they use for nuclear warheads. I don't know if they have any conventional warheads. If they will use them, probably it's just going to be a show, like maybe stuck a conventional warhead on it. Another option would be to use like airports of allied armies, maybe like in Azerbaijan, but I wouldn't think Aliyev, after having like his victory over Armenia, would be meddling with that kind of firepower. The thing is, they would need definitely the participation of the US. But the US presence in the region is very fragile also. Like in alMayadeen, they have 10,000 troops that can be struck with much cheaper munition because they're closer to the Iranian borders, 200 kilometers, 250 kilometers, I think.
I mean, even the naval base in Bahrain.
Exactly.
I mean, it will be a worse situation than Pearl Harbor.
Exactly. So the US said, like, we don't want anything to have with that, but they need to retaliate. Why? Because Israel is built on an idea of invincibility. They got slapped by the Iranians and by the axis of resistance. They need to respond. There is this need. But as I told you, Westerners are begging them not to respond because they know where this is going. That's the thing. If they respond, they will get another retaliation that's much harder than Iran. Less targets will be intercepted and much damage will be caused, and we're going to be entering a spiral. Do you guarantee that the US is willing to go there? Like even Biden said, like, take the win and just like get along. The thing is, if they don't retaliate, this will cause also a political, like, I'm not saying it will definitely cause, but it will be leading the way to a political collapse in the Israeli occupation, because it's just formed, like the whole society is formed by extremists to varying degrees of extremism, and everybody is just saying, you're a coward, we should have responded, and so on and so forth. So the thing is, I think, I'm not really sure if they will respond due to capabilities, the very limited capabilities. They might be able to sneak something like somewhere and launch missiles from outside of Iran, like maybe the 200, 300 kilometers range missile with F-35s, and just escape and say it, like, call it a day. Let's forget about the retaliation. But at the end of the day, like a continuous action against Iran is just impossible. Like what you see in Lebanon and Gaza, they don't have the capabilities. Why Iranians, as an official of the IRGC has said years ago, we manufacture missiles like we manufacture cigars now. So you make it. Fast satellite images, so like only one factory having dozens and dozens of boosters being built, only one factory in Iran, just like piling up outside of the factory. It's from years ago.
So let's go back to this. Most probable is that they will shoot at Iran from outside its border, from jets. That's the most logical thing, just like they've been doing in Syria. Even with this last attack, they used F-35s because the targets are so deep in, Iran. Even their long-range missiles wouldn't, let's say, reach Western Iran or Central Iran. The Jericho missiles, could they reach those targets?
They can, actually. But the thing
Sorry,
is,
eastern Iran, I mean, all the way to there.
yeah, now they have like the Jericho, a version which can reach for 4,500
Okay.
kilometers. But the thing is, they have very, very limited numbers of them because they're an Air Force-centric power.
And
It's
they
not
would like to save them probably for their Armageddon nuclear war,
exactly,
probably.
exactly.
Yes.
So the thing is, with such limited options, it's just very hard to anticipate. Like even with the F-35s, like I saw a lot of Westerns saying like, yeah, they can go undetected. It's not like that. Like the F-35, okay, it's a stealth jet, but from a certain angle. So if you go inside Iran, you would be spotted from multiple angles by multiple radars. Maybe even you would be spotted by thermal imaging. There are some radars that are actually capable of defeating stealth. They're not efficient at targeting the airplane, but they will tell the Iranians, okay, we have an F-35 there. They will focus their radars on it. Like there is a Soviet, also Russian radar called the Nebo. The Iranians copied it. So the thing is, it's not that easy. I'm not saying it's that they're gonna down all the F-35s and all the F-35s will just go in Tehran to bomb it. Like it's just it can go both ways. But it's very, very limited question.
So it's a
Complicated
given,
story.
really, that they will be attacking Iran. We don't know how and what the effects of it, but we also know right now from Iran, statements over the night came out saying that they will be, if the Israelis attack them, that they will be responding in a wider, stronger, and faster fashion than the attack 2 days ago. So that's again a promise of widening the battle in front of us. So once we go there, what is to stop the United States from, given that we analyze it together right now, the Israelis will be overwhelmed. They were overwhelmed with that limited test attack with old weapons that Iran used. In a situation with a wider bombardment and thousands of missiles and drones and so forth, the U.S. will have to step in.
Definitely. If it wants to ensure like the Israeli occupation survival, it has to step in. The thing is, even with like the US going in, it has much more firepower, but it would have to give up probably its dream of confronting China. It would be selling its hegemony without like even discussing what the outcome of the battle be. But fighting Iranians, the Americans do understand it. It's something that's very costly with very, very limited benefits to it. Like it just doesn't matter. But the thing is, it's still stuck. Israel is still stuck as very important cornerstone of American foreign policy. It's not there yet to say like, okay, Israel's a burden. There are some voices in the U.S. repeating that, but it's still a little bit too early. So what do we say? Like, may Biden continuously say that he doesn't want to expand the war. He told Netanyahu like, don't strike. But if he doesn't threaten to cut bombs or to cut like munition, he will go on and strike. It doesn't matter what the U.S. said if the outcome would be that, okay, Israel is reigning. The tail is wagging the dog in this case. So I don't know, maybe a better, like, let's say more optimistic scenario for us would be like that there would be a strike and a counter-strike for a few days. The Israelis would be hit very badly. The US would know the limits of his capabilities. The damage will be done, even if some damage to Iran will be done, but Iran is a big nation state, it doesn't care. But the Israelis will have a certain damage that will cause a permanent degradation to the whole strategic concept of being, and it will cause what have been started in October 7 to even like intensify and maybe lead to the collapse of the occupation.
Of course, we didn't even mention any of the other components of the axis of resistance, what Hezbollah would do in such a situation, what Ansarullah would do, what the Iraqi resistance, what Syria would do as a state and its military in the situation of a full-out war. And given that the swarms will be overwhelming them from all angles, aren't we actually walking towards a nuclear war?
I think it can still be stopped. But if the Israelis do go and actually drag the U.S. or even do hurt themselves doing that, like say they go foolishly to attack the Iranian nuclear facilities in Iran, yes, we would be going there because an Iranian response would probably be to bomb the strategic hideout location of Israeli weapons. There are 3 bases that actually house such weapons, according to reports. One of them was nearly hit on October 7 with the Al-Qassam missile. So, yeah, probably when the Israelis will feel that they will losing the upper hand, or they are losing like their strategic deterrence, they will use probably, they might use nuclear weapons. The thing is with the Iranians, they have a latency, also nuclear latency. They have announced continuously they don't want to build a nuclear bomb, but also reports indicate they can build a few now. They can build a few now if they want within few days. And the location where they're going to build them is deep under a 100-meter deep mountain that's made of actually very hard rocks, with tunnels, with blast doors, leading to blast doors, leading to blast doors. So even some analysts say, I've experimented also with simulation programs, that even 10 nuclear bombs won't be able to penetrate. Not even the Israelis, they have low yield, to penetrate such depth to hinder Iran. So Iran has some sort of nuclear deterrence even without having the bomb. We don't have it, but we can build it instantly if you strike us. So let's pray that that would be sufficient to actually put some brains into the Israeli heads and just let them take the defeat instead of driving us to a nuclear Armageddon.
So let's think about the United States. You know, many people have for a while been saying that the United States is being forced into this. The United States wants to de-escalate. We keep on hearing these statements from the United States and so forth. But if we look at it from an internal situation of the United States, and you see that there's an election coming up in November, and that already Biden is predicted to lose this election. And we look at actually how both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, have decided to just annul the voice of anybody that stands with Palestine, you know, ignore their existence. The Palestinian, Arab, Muslim communities, the black communities, the Latinos, the indigenous people, anybody who's leftist or progressive or anti-war, their vote is now basically spoiled. It doesn't have any weight in the coming election. So in reality, it's going to be a battle between Netanyahu, between Biden and Trump on who is more Zionist, who is more supportive of Israel in the upcoming election. So this could be in reality something that pushes Biden to take more stronger positions in support of Israel militarily as things roll out, and as the war, as Iran hits back at Israel, this will push him to engage in this battle. So if the United States enter, maybe that will be the only thing that stops Israel from using a nuke in that situation. But if the United States enters this war, what is China going to do? What is Russia going to do? What is Belarus going to do? What is North Korea going to do?
Exactly. We're entering a very dangerous state of affairs. So if the United States enters a war and gets into another quagmire after the 10th quagmire in the Middle East, that will probably cause Ukraine to collapse, first and foremost. Will push North Korea to say, like, there is no Americans here? Why don't we just unite the Korea? This has been a goal for a long time. The Chinese might step in and say, like, if they have the necessity, the US, to pull like some of its naval forces from the east, they would say, like, okay, Taiwan is up for unification again. So that's the thing that the US has been thinking about. Okay, maybe we go there, but what's the result? So even about Biden and the whole Trump and Biden dilemma here. Okay, both are Zionists, we do agree. But at the same time, they are US presidents. So both of them are very susceptible to pressure from the IPAC, especially that, okay, so Biden is saying that I lost the Muslim and Arab electors. I can't just like go, he's a Zionist, let's be clear. But he can't, like, even for the interest of the US, go against the Israeli interest and favor the interest of his own country right now. So what will happen, that's basically the dilemma. The IPAC is so much have so much penetrated the American politics that even if someone wants like something, some president, he really can't. He will lose the elections. They have been bragging for a very long time, the IPAC, of 97% of the candidates we finance do actually win the elections. I don't know if that's something to be proud of for the American people, if a foreign lobby that's actually not classified as a foreign agent is financing your elections. Let them think about it. It's not for me. The thing is, the only class right now that's actually preventing, I would say, an escalation in the Middle East are the bureaucrats. The ones that actually know how many missiles the US have, how many troops that have, the actual, like the experts, let's say, the ones in the State Department or the Department of Defense. They have been there. They're not elected. They don't really care about IPAC money. Of course, they're pro-Israelis, most of them. But the thing is, they can favor the US interest. That's why we had some kind of strife between the Department of State and Department of Defense on the first days of the war, when actually Austin did actually hide the fact that he was sick. That was part of the feud in the internal politics of the US. So this class does see it, but it's also reigned by the White House. So it cannot act, but they see it. A lot of whistleblowers are coming in Western media from the Department of Defense and the State Department to actually say, like, this is a train wreck. This is a train wreck. Please stop.
But if we analyze it from war games theory point of view, the axis of resistance were brilliant in what they have been doing up until now in actually forcing Israel and the empire behind it into these quagmires of, leaving them only two tactical options in front of them to maintain their strategic goals. And in the situation of Israel, the strategic goal is maintenance of the colony, and the situation of the United States is to remain the hegemon, the only empire on the table. And in both cases, in the October 7th and now, as we're moving into a possibility of the United States going into this war with Iran, and the move of Iran, what they just did, every time they're leaving them only two choices: either admit defeat and or go to a genocidal zero-sum war. And we saw the Israelis choose in October 7th the option number two, the genocidal zero-sum. And as we see right now, the Israelis are choosing again with the situation with Iran that the United States, to maintain its hegemony as an empire, will have no choice, whether it's Biden or Trump, to face Iran and to go into war, or admit defeat and pull its troops from the region, which means a retreat of the empire into its natural borders back in the Atlantic. So do you feel the choices in front of the United States right now and Israel, do you think that there's more probability for choice number two, again, to go further into the genocide?
You see, the problem is like this discrepancy between the United States and the Israeli strategic goals. So the United States' dream, let's say the most perfect scenario, is to isolate Iran and the axis of resistance, a two-state solution, not because they love the Palestinians, but this is the limits of power of the Israelis. They know it better than the Israelis themselves. Create an Arab-Israeli NATO ruled by Saudi Arabia, UAE, and the Israelis to face Iran. Okay, everyone calm down, we're going to face China. That's what they have been trying to explain to Netanyahu. The genocide in Gaza, while on the other hand, it complicated that much the matter for them. They can't normalize, they can't formalize that alliance at the same time. And like because of the Arab Street, the whole pressure on the governments, the Arab people still know what's happening. So they can't just go there. And while it's collapsing, even the two-state solution that's actually that's selling most of Palestine to the Israelis, they won't accept it. A two-state solution will collapse the Israelis society. That's how they're extremist they are. Even a two-state solution we're talking about. So there is no way. So you see the problem with the Israelis, even from a Western standpoint, two-state solution, let's call it. They are a colony built on supremacy. We need to show the natives their place. We need to kill hundreds of them if they kill one of us. That doesn't go well with the international system that you have been built as a hegemon, the US. This is a strategic burden. It has always been a strategic burden from that aspect, but now, with the diminishing power of the US, this is getting much more significant, especially with the rising power of other rivaling parties. So to sum it up, there is a contradiction between what both parties think. Like if you ask anybody in the Israeli society, this is the most perfect solution for you to exist here as a colony, they would say like maybe they will recognize that Biden has some kind of sense to his proposal, but they can't. This will lead the society to collapse. So that's the conflicting strategy here. So it doesn't look very bright. They have worse option and better options. Like Biden wants to eliminate Hamas, but he says maybe we can do it like sneakily, like finance another PA in Gaza, get some Arab troops, coalition Arab troops, like from the normalizing regimes, while the Israelis just see everything as a nail. They're a hammer. We want to hammer everything, but you're causing a genocide, you're causing a disaster, PR disaster for Western countries, you're collapsing the whole international system. You need to be more like rational about it, but they can't. It's just they can't. Like you see polls, 80% wants to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I think like it was from the beginning. It's still as much as high. Nobody wants to actually make peace. So how do you make of that? So hopefully this will cause more strife in Arab societies and will make more people realize that there is no peace that can be made with a colony, with a supremacist outsider, an alien to the region that can only. This is not a natural thing. No country behaves like that in the world. Israel is not a natural country. What country needs to slap you 100 times harder than you actually did? Like, say, Iran, China, I don't know, Russia. They can take slaps. They can solve a lot of matters diplomatically. But even one slap for the Israelis, like the one that happened on April 14th, they would say this will cause a total collapse of society. We need to respond because we need to establish deterrence. Nobody acts like that. See?
Well, not a lot of hope in front of us in the next few days. The whole region is holding its breath, waiting, and the whole world probably is also waiting to see what's going to happen in the next few days. Ali Jezzini, Security Affairs Analyst at alMayadeen, thank you very much for being with us, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you, Laith. Thank you a lot for the interview.
If you liked what you just watched, we're going to be doing more of these coffee shop interviews with analysts from the region, voices that you don't hear in the English market. Please visit our website, freepalestine.video. Donate. You can do a subscription of monthly donations or a one-off donation for whatever you like watching. This is all volunteer work, community television based in Beirut. Freepalestine.video is the website. See you again next time.